Namo Buddhaya, Jai Bhim. May the noble triple gem bless you all. Before I start the Dhamma discussion, I would like to explain a few points. In this series of Dhamma sermons and Dhamma discussions, we are explaining and discussing the path to Sotapanna, the first level of enlightenment. For explaining that, I am mainly using Dhamma from Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, the first sutra that Lord Buddha delivered to the Panchavagya Bhikkhu. After listening to that sermon, all 5 Panchavagya Bhikkhus became Sotapanna, as well as the Sotapanna Sutra. In addition to that, I will also be quoting Dhamma points from Dvedhavitakka Sutra, Vitakkasanthana Sutra, Ratana Sutra, and the Cuta Sutra. Now, all these sutras I have taken from the oldest Tipitaka in the world, which is kept at the British Library in London. This Tipitaka has been written down by Arahata monks 456 years after Lord Buddha passed away. So this Tipitaka is over 2,100 years old. As far as I know, this is the only Tipitaka that's left in the world right now that has been written down by Arahata monks. And it has been written down at Alulena Rajamaha Vihara in Matula village in Kegol district in Sri Lanka. The story how it came to the British Library, I explained it earlier. And if anyone wants to know those details, again, if anyone missed that session, please do ask me during the question time, and I'm more than happy to explain again. So this Tipitaka, as I said, is kept at the British Library, which is less than 20 miles from our Vihara. So I go there every Wednesday and read this Tipitaka. Now, I have noticed major differences between the Dhamma that's explained in this Tipitaka and the other Tipitakas that I have read. I have mainly read the 2 Tipitakas that we have in Sri Lanka, Sinhala Pali Tipitakas. The first one was written down in 1956 by a group of monks appointed by the government for Buddha Jayanti. 1956, so that makes it 44 plus 21. That's 65 years old, the Tipitaka. And the other one was written down in the recent past, in 90s, by another group of monks. I have read the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in those 2 Tipitakas, as well as the English translation of the Tipitaka done by Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhikkhu Jnana Bodhi. And all those 3 Tipitakas, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is given in less than 5 pages. Whereas the Tipitaka that's kept at the British Library, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, has been written down in 48 pages. I know the pages are smaller in the Tipitaka that they have in the British Library, but even if you take 2 or 3 pages equivalent to 1 page in the other Tipitakas, still it's the information that's given in the old Tipitaka at the British Library is more than 3 times of the information that's given in the other 3 Tipitakas that I have read. So there are significant differences and more comprehensive and more detailed. So the Dhamma that I'm teaching, I'm quoting from those Tipitakas. Sometimes it might differ from what you have learned already. And if that is the case, please don't develop anger or resentment or arguments against it. Please practice the principle that Lord Buddha explained in the Kalama Sutra. In Kalama Sutra, Lord Buddha said that don't either believe me or disbelieve me, just take all this, listen to this information, take it home, go through it several times using your intelligence and wisdom, and analyze it and see whether it adds up. And at the end of the day, if you think it's right, you can take it, make use of it, and you will be able to get results very quickly. On the other hand, if you think it's wrong, just leave it out and carry on with whatever you have been doing, but don't develop anger, resentment, or arguments against it. So I kindly make the same request from all of you. Then I will deliver the sermon for about 50 minutes. Thereafter, I'll give you 2 hours to ask any questions from what we have discussed so far. And the last 5 minutes I will utilize to transfer merits and offer blessings to the entire world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, before I start the sermon, I will very quickly recap within 5 minutes what we have discussed so far. Firstly, I explained the Dhamma from the Cuta Sutra. In the Cuta Sutra, Lord Buddha explained what happens to people when they die. He said if the person has already attained Arahathood, he will go to Nibbana. If the person has already attained Anagami, he will go to a good Brahmaloka known as Suddhavasa. If the person has become Sakuddagami or Sotapanna, he will go to a good Divyaloka. Then if the person has been doing wrong meditation, practicing wrong meditation techniques and attained a state of mind known as Asanya, then he will go to Asanya Tala, the 16 bad Brahmalokas. Then if a person has been performing a lot of meritorious deeds and wishing for lots of comforts in life, then they will go to a bad Divyaloka where they will enjoy life very much. They will live a life full of comforts and luxuries for a short time and then fall back into the 4 hells. Then the people who have been on the path to Sotapanna but not yet attained Sotapanna, what happens to them? And the rest of the people who have neither attained Sotapanna nor even come to the Sotapanna path, Lord Buddha said they will all go to the 4 hells. So that's a summary, very briefly, of the Cuta Sutra. Then I started briefly explaining the summary of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. Let's go through that summary quickly and then continue from where I stopped. Now, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, firstly, Lord Buddha says, Pubbaya ananusutesu dhammesu. I'm explaining you Dhamma you haven't heard before. Then he said, Chakkung Uddapadi, Jnanam Uddapadi, Panya Uddapadi, Vijja Uddapadi, Aloko Uddapadi. Chakkung Uddapadi means I got the vision of Dhamma. Jnanam Uddapadi means I got the knowledge of Dhamma. Chakkung Uddapadi, Jnanam Uddapadi, Panya Uddapadi, I got the wisdom of Dhamma. Vijja Uddapadi, I got the science of Dhamma. And Aloko Uddapadi, I became Aloka from Loka, which means that I managed to find the way out of the 32 realms and found my way to the Nibbana. Then he says, in order to understand this Dhamma, you have to come out of Kamasukallikan Yoga, you have to come out of Attakilamattana Yoga, and you have to come to Majjhima Patipada. Now, those things, I think I did explain in detail to some extent. Attakilamattana Kamasukallikan Yoga is living a life of luxury, what Prince Siddhartha did as a prince for 29 years. Attakilamatana yoga is the other extreme, living a life of austerity, giving unnecessary suffering to the body and the mind. That's what Bodhisattva Siddhartha Gautama did for 6 years while he was doing his research program. And he said, you must come out of, he rejected both of these extremes. And he said, you must come out of that and you must come to Majjhima Patipada. Majjhima Patipada, he explained as the Noble Eightfold Path, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Then he said, to come to Samma Ditti, the first fold of the Noble Eightfold Path, first you have to understand the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, he said, the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of the cause of suffering, noble truth of outer suffering, and the noble truth of the way out of suffering. Then he said, in order to understand and comprehend the Four Noble Truths, there are four things that you have to do. First one is Kalyana Mitra Sevana, that's associating a person who is capable of explaining correct Dhamma to you, which will help you to eradicate Raga Desha Moha. And second step is Siri Saddharma Shravana, listening to the correct Dhamma explained by that Kalyana Mitra. Yoniso Manasikara, that means go through the Dhamma that you learned already, go through it over and over again, revise it, analyze it, and try and comprehend it and get a vision of it. Dhammanudhamma Patipada, that he explained as Sabbapapassa Karanang Kusalasa Pasampada, which means eradicate all unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome deeds and unwholesome qualities, develop, cultivate, and practice wholesome thoughts, wholesome qualities, and wholesome deeds. So that's a summary that he gave. Then he started to explain each Dhamma point, important Dhamma point in the sutra in detail. So, so far we have discussed, we have explained up to the first noble truth. In the first noble truth, I explained the 11 types of suffering that Lord Buddha explained in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. There's Jati pi dukkha, jara pi dukkha, vyadi pi dukkha, maranam pi dukkha, soka parideva dukkha domanassa, upayasa pi dukkha, pi yehi vipayogo dukkho, appi yehi sampayogo dukkho, yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkham, sankittena pancha upadana skandha dukkha. So the 11 types of suffering, I explained it in some detail. If you have any questions on those, you can ask me during the question time, and I'm more than happy to explain. Even if you ask several times, I don't mind. Then the next point, Lord Buddha said, Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkham. Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkham means that's the quality that you will find in all those 11 types of suffering that Lord Buddha explained. Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkham means if you like something and or if you want something to happen in a certain way, and if you are not getting it, that will cause you suffering. The opposite side of this is if you don't like something and if you are getting that, that will also cause you suffering. So that's the principle that's explained in Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkha. Then he says sankittena pancha upadana skandha dukkha. Now this is the most important thing one has to understand in order to become Sotapanna. So we are going to discuss this in some detail. Right. Sankittena pancha upadana skandha dukkha. So firstly, we have to understand what is pancha skandha, what is pancha upadana skandha. Now here he says sankittena. The word sang is here as well. It is everywhere. Sang means raga, dvesha, moha. What it means is the pancha upadana skandha made up of sang causes suffering. Sang is Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Now let's try and understand what is Panchaskandha and what is Pancha Upadana Skandha. Panchaskandha is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. We will discuss them in detail. When a person has got hold of these five, when a person is attached to these five and he can't live without them, and he wants to practice it all the time, there's a reason why he does Sankara. We will discuss that in detail later. Why he wants to do Sankara all the time, because he gets aswad out of it. So people get attached to it. So when a person is attached to this Panchaskandha and always doing Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, and enjoying aswad and passing his time, and he's attached to this Panchaskandha, and it's very difficult for that person to get away from that attachment, gradually come out of that attachment. He's attached to it. So when a person is attached to the Panchaskandha that way, when he's holding on to the Panchaskandha in order to enjoy aswada, and the Lord Buddha called that Panchaskandha becomes Pancha Upadana Skandha. Upadana Skandha means you are so, you like it so much or you dislike it so much. If you like it so much, you are attached to it with raga. And if you dislike it so much, you are attached to it with dvesha. You have raga dvesha because you have moha. Moha is not knowing the Four Noble Truths. Raga is attachment due to greed and desire, and then dvesha is attachment due to anger and resentment. I explained this before, but if you have any questions, please do question me again during question time. Now before we go any further on the Pancha Upadana Skandha, I want to explain to you the difference between wholesome deeds, merits, unwholesome deeds, and sins. Now these are four words. Let me repeat: wholesome deeds, merits, unwholesome deeds, and sins. It's very important to understand what these are and how these things get originated, or how we create them in our mind, and what is the result of doing it. Wholesome deed is something wholesome. We start with wholesome thoughts. Now in Dhammapada, the first gatha says, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma, Mano Setta Manomaya. Every action that we take starts with a thought. We cannot do anything without first having a thought about it. So we have to construct a thought first in our mind. So if we construct a thought with raga, dvesha, moha, there are only two ways that we can construct thoughts. First one is wholesome thoughts, that is constructing a thought with maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka. Now let me explain you what maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka means. Maitri thought is the thought of wishing someone well. When we say, may all living beings be healthy, be happy, and so on, we are developing, or we are cultivating a Maitri thought in our mind, which we can put into Maitri action mentally, physically, or verbally if we want to. But before action, before we have action on anything, first we have to construct a thought. So Maitri thought is the thought of wishing someone well. Karuna is thought of compassion. Mudita is the thought of being happy for others' pleasure. And upekka That's a little difficult one to understand for most people. Upekkha means when something good happens to you, you don't get overjoyed about it and keep thinking about it and develop an attachment towards it with raga. So you expect that sort of thing to happen all the time, and if they don't happen, you get worried and you will start suffering. The other side of the coin is, if something bad happens to you, if you worry too much about it and keep thinking about it and develop an attachment towards it, with anger and resentment, then every time when that comes to your mind, you'll be angry and you will have resentment feeling in your mind, and that is an unwholesome thought, and that will have consequences, which we are going to explain now. So you have a rough idea of what Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha means, and you will have a better understanding as we go on through the sermons and the discussions. If you have any questions, please feel free to question me during the question time. That's why I give plenty of time to ask any questions. So there are only two ways one can construct a thought in their mind. The first way is with raga, dvesha, moha. And if a person is constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha, and that thought is called an unwholesome thought. In Magadhi language, constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha is called sanchetana. Sang is raga, dvesha, moha. Chetana means constructing the chitta. Chetana. Tana means constructing, and che means chitta. So when you are constructing your mind with raga, desha, moha, which will be followed by a raga, desha, moha thought, that is called sanchetana. Don't worry about it too much at this stage. You will understand it more as we go on. So if we develop a thought in your mind with raga, dvesha, moha, that is an unwholesome thought. So when you have an unwholesome thought, there are several things happen automatically. Lord Buddha said, firstly, if you have an unwholesome thought, you release negative energy into the environment, and that in turn pollutes the environment, and that pollution has a negative effect on every living being, every plant and tree living on this planet, and that's a huge sin. That's one outcome when you have a raga, dvesha, moha thought in your mind. The moment you start thinking of raga, dvesha, moha thought, start constructing a raga, dvesha, moha thought, or start cultivating a raga, dvesha, moha thought, or start developing a raga, dvesha, moha thought, the first thing that happens is you release negative energy into the environment, pollute the environment, and start to earn sins. And from the other side, what happens is, when you have a raga, dvesha, moha thought in your mind, it will strengthen the raga, dvesha, moha qualities that you have developed and accumulated throughout your samsara, which has been deposited and you are carrying with you in your chitta santhana. Now, to understand that, let's explain what chitta santhana is. Now, Lord Buddha said the physical body that we can see, he called it karja kaya. Kaya means body in Magadhi language. He called it karja kaya. Inside this karja kaya, he said there's another body that we cannot see. He called it manomaya kaya. In English, they call it astral body. I'm sure you have heard of astral travel. So when a person dies, this physical body will die, and also his mind will die. What travels from one life to the next is this Manomaya Kaya, the astral body. Inside this Manomaya Kaya, there's a storage facility called Vitakkasanthana. So Vitakkasanthana, here also you get the word sang. Thana means a point that collects something, collection point. There are many, many words in the Magadhi language that ends with Thana, and also in the Sinhala language. For example, Sthana, you have that in Hindu language also, Sthana. And then let me think of another word. There are a few, they are not coming to my mind now. So Thana means a collection point where things are collected or accumulated. So Vitakkasanthana is the place where we accumulate mainly sang. The word sang is used there because most people mostly have unwholesome thoughts and sins accumulated there, which is made up of sang, raga, desha, moha. So this place is called Vitakkasanthana. So in this Vitakkasanthana, there are, let's say to make it easier to understand, let's say there are 5 boxes. There are many boxes that everything that we carry from one life to the next is stored in this Vitakkasanthana. For understanding purposes, let's say there are 5 boxes. We only learn about these 5 boxes, but there are many. Only these 5 are relevant to this level, Sotapanna level. So let's think about these 5. So this storage facility called Vitakkasanthana has 5 boxes. The first box contains wholesome qualities. The second box contains merits. The third box contains unwholesome qualities. And the fourth box contains sins. And the fifth box contains our past memories. So, as I explained earlier, when a person is having a raga, dvesha, moha thought in his mind, I said that he is releasing negative energy into the environment and earning sins. So those sins will be deposited in that fourth box where he has been accumulating the sins that he has been collecting for the past million lives or whatever. So out of all the sins that he has collected, the sins that are still waiting to give him results are still deposited in this box. And any other sins he's committing in the present moment will be accumulated in that box, in the fourth box. Then the second thing that happens is when he is having an unwholesome thought, the third box that contains his unwholesome qualities, his raga quality, dvesha quality, and the moha quality that he has developed and accumulated throughout his samsara, ever since he came to this 31 planes as a living being. He has been accumulating these unwholesome qualities, and they have been deposited in this third box. Any other unwholesome qualities he is developing as a result of practicing unwholesome thoughts in his mind, and that will also be deposited or added back to that third box where he is depositing and accumulating his unwholesome qualities. So those are, in Magadhi language, unwholesome is called akusal. They are called akusal gati, unwholesome qualities. So I hope it is clear to you. The third box accumulates and deposits and carries with the person all the unwholesome qualities that he has developed throughout his samsara up to this very moment. So it has these unwholesome qualities are his raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality. As a result of these 3 qualities, He has many weaknesses, other bad qualities, which can be classified under raga quality or dvesha quality or moha quality. So those are all unwholesome qualities. On the other hand, he also has wholesome qualities and merits. Wholesome quality is when he is developing a thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekha. First thing that he does is he releases positive energy into the environment, which in turn cleans the environment, and that will be beneficial to every living being living on this planet, and every plant and every tree living on this planet. And that is the greatest merit, according to Lord Buddha. That is the greatest merit a person can commit in these 31 planes, Lord Buddha said. The example that he gave was the comparison. He said, offering dana to a Samma Sambuddha and his disciples 1,000 times is a huge merit. Very few people are fortunate enough to have that opportunity to offer 1,000 danas to a Samma Sambuddha and his disciples, which is a huge merit. And not average person can do. It's only very special person like a king or very rich person who has resources as well as who got the opportunity to do it. And in the Gautama Buddha Sasana, as far as explained in the Tripitaka, there are only 3 people who have offered more than 1,000 danas to Samma Sambuddha, Gautama Buddha and his disciples. And that was, one was King Kosala, Pasenadi Kosala. The second one was his chief Dayaka, chief Upasaka. His name was, let me think, Anatha Pindika. And the third one was a Upasika named Vishaka. Upasaka means lay follower, lay disciple. Upasika means lay female disciple, male disciple and female disciple. Now, when Lord Buddha addresses the people when he was delivering a Dhamma, he said, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. He called it Siv Vanak Pirisa. Siv means 4. Vanak Pirisa means people, his followers. Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni. Bhikkhu is the monks. And Bhikkhuni is female monks or nuns, if you like. And the Upasaka is male disciples, lay disciples or lay followers. And Upasika is female lay followers. So there was an Upasika called Vishaka. She was wealthy and she was fortunate enough to have that opportunity. Only 3 people. So Lord Buddha said offering 1,000 danas to Lord Buddha, Samma Sambuddha and his disciples is a huge merit, but you can earn a bigger merit or greater merit than that by practicing loving kindness meditation correctly for 5 minutes. Because the science behind that is when you practice loving kindness meditation for 5 minutes, every second you keep cleaning the environment, which is beneficial to uncountable number of living beings living on these 31 planes, and uncountable number of trees and plants living on these 31 planes, and that's a huge merit. So just imagine, that's why loving kindness meditation is so powerful. That's why in the Metta Sutra, Lord Buddha has explained by practicing loving kindness meditation correctly, you can go all the way up to Arahathood. And that is the only meditation technique. Out of the 4 meditation techniques, the Chatura Rakka, Chatu means 4, that Lord Buddha has recommended in the Satipatthana Sutra. That's Metta Anusati, Asubhanusati, Marananusati, and Buddhanusati. Out of the four, the first one that he recommended was also Mettanusati. Mettanusati means loving kindness meditation. And that is the only one which he has explained in a sutra out of the four, where he says, just practicing this meditation technique, loving kindness meditation, you can go all the way up to Arahathood. Because when you practice loving kindness meditation, all you are doing is strengthening your wholesome qualities, your Maitri quality, Karuna quality, Mudita quality, and Upekka quality. So if you keep on doing that, what will happen is your wholesome qualities will get stronger, stronger, and stronger. In the meantime, if you not allow your mind to practice unwholesome thoughts, your unwholesome qualities will gradually deteriorate because you are not practicing it, you are not polishing it up. And eventually, if you manage to practice loving kindness thoughts in your mind all the time, not allowing a single thought of raga, desha, moha to come into your mind, eventually your raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality will completely disappear, and your vijnana, I will explain you what vijnana is, that will completely disappear. In other words, you will be eradicating vijnana forever, completely, and you will be developing your Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, the wholesome qualities to the highest possible level, which will develop your wisdom to the highest possible level, and which will help you to understand, comprehend the Four Noble Truths fully, and you will be able to eradicate Raga, Desha, Moha completely, and understand how this universe works, what these Four Noble Truths are, and you will be able to attain Arahathood. At the Sotapanna level, we are comprehending the Four Noble Truths at the first level, and Sakuddagami at the second level, and at Anagami level, Anagami at the third level, and at Arahathood, the final level. It's like a person who's learning mathematics at university entrance exam, what we call A levels in the UK, and I think in US they call it high school graduation, and in India they call it +2. A person who's studying maths at that level, university entrance level, he will study mathematics to a certain standard, and then at bachelor's level, if he studies mathematics, the standard will be higher. The subject is the same, but the standard will be higher. Then if he goes on to master's and studies mathematics, the standard will be even higher. And if he does it at PhD level, the standard will be very, very high. Similar principle here. When you are comprehending the Four Noble Truths at the first level, Sotapanna level, you will comprehend them to a certain standard, certain level, which will help you to eradicate 3 of the 10 bonds that binds you to this samsara, Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha, Silabbata Paramasa. Then Sakuddagami and Anagami level, you'll be able to eradicate Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha, Silabbata Paramasa, then Kamaraga, Patiga, then Arahat level, the last 5, that's Ruparaga, Aruparaga, Mana, Uddacha, Avidya. We don't have to worry about those things at that level. All we have to be concerned with is the Sotapanna level, where we have to eradicate Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha, Silabbata Paramasa. So let me come back to these 5 boxes that we were talking about. So in box number 1, we have the wholesome qualities that we have accumulated throughout our samsara up to this very moment. And in the second box, we have the merits that we have accumulated by practicing, by cultivating, by practicing the wholesome thoughts. When we have a thought, if we put it into practice, obviously a thought becomes a practice. The moment we start thinking, we are putting it into practice mentally. So we start to accumulate merits. Then if we put it into action physically and verbally, we earn more merits. So those merits are accumulated in the second box. And as and when we live life, we enjoy things, the basic necessities that we need and luxuries if we use, then the merits that we have accumulated will gradually go down. It's like money in the bank. When we spend money, our bank balance goes down. Similarly, the merits that we are accumulating as and when we enjoy things in life, merits will gradually go down. So that's why it's important to perform as many meritorious deeds as possible and accumulate merits. And the best way to perform, collect, and accumulate merits is by practicing loving kindness meditation. Giving dana and all that is great. That is also necessary. But more than that, practicing loving kindness meditation is more powerful and more fruitful. So that's about wholesome deeds and merits. I will also explain that with an example. Then thinking of box number 3 and 4. In box number 3, we have our the bad qualities, the unwholesome qualities. That's raga quality, dvesha quality, and the moha quality that we have accumulated throughout our samsara. And as and when we practice unwholesome thoughts in our mind, we keep adding more and more unwholesome qualities to the qualities that we have developed already. In other words, we will keep strengthening the unwholesome qualities that we have accumulated already. Just think about it. There's no rocket science here. It's common sense. Everyone can understand it. Even a 14-year-old child with some common sense can understand. Then, as and when we practice unwholesome thoughts in our mind, we keep accumulating sins. On one hand, we are polluting the environment and accumulating sins. And on the other hand, if we put those unwholesome thoughts into unwholesome action, mentally, physically, or verbally, and we will start to accumulate sins as well. So according to those sins, we will get bad results. Bad things will happen to us. And when we have merits, good things will happen to us. Let me explain this to you with an example. Now, let's say you are sitting at your home in India or Sri Lanka, because in UK, we don't get beggars coming to the house. Even though beggars are now appearing in the high streets, because the gap between rich and poor is going up. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. That's politics. In USA also, you get beggars on the streets, but they don't come to your house begging. I don't know whether they have started doing that. Anyone in the US comment on that? Have they started coming to your house now, like in Sri Lanka and India? Anyone can comment on that? In
Bhante,
USA?
yes, Bhante, this is Archana. They don't come to our houses, but we can see on the streets.
Okay, okay. Now I'm talking of, for this example, I'm talking of a beggar coming to our house. When we see the beggar, and the first thought that comes to our mind, if we feel, if we feel sorry for that person and feel that we want to help him, that's the Maitri thought, Maitri and Karuna thought that comes to our mind. You see, without realizing, these things happen so fast. So that's the Maitri Karuna thought that comes to our mind. Then if we go inside the house, get some money or get some food and give it to him, we put that Maitri Karuna Mudita thought into action. So what happens here is, when we have the thought, the moment that we have the thought, we feel sorry for the person and we think that we must help him in some way. So in one way, we have a Maitri thought. We feel that we should do something for him. And then the second thought is compassion, karuna. We have the karuna part of it. And then the mudita, be happy for others' pleasure. We want to be happy by giving something to him, making his life better. And upeka quality comes afterwards. If we give that and enjoy that moment and forget about it, that's fine. But if we keep thinking about it for a week and develop an attachment towards it, that's not good. So that's an example of how we develop Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka qualities in our mind, the thoughts in our mind. The moment we have a thought, we will start, firstly, we'll be releasing positive energy into the environment, cleaning the environment, benefiting everyone living in the 31 planes, and earning merits. Automatically, we are earning merits. And also, if we give something to the beggar, and that will, make him happy, something useful to him, make his life better, and that will also give us merits. So all these merits will be deposited in that box number 2. On the other hand, when we are having a Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka thought in our mind, we are automatically developing our wholesome qualities in box number 1. Our Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka qualities will be developed. Most people don't know this, don't realize it, but it happens. So that's how wholesome deeds and merits work in practice. Now one could say, this is all mumbo jumbo. How do we know these things happen? And so on. But today there's a machine called Aura machine that is available in the UK, and it's on the internet also. You can look it up. And this machine can monitor the type of energy that you are releasing to the environment. When you are releasing positive energy into the environment, if you are having a wholesome thought and releasing positive energy into the environment, the machine shows a very light color of the races or the energy that you are releasing to the environment. On the other hand, if you are having a raga, dvesha, moha thought, the energy that you are releasing to the environment has a very dark color. The machine registers the dark color. So these things are scientific, you see. It can be proven scientifically. So this is how we earn wholesome qualities and merits and unwholesome qualities and sins. If you have any questions on that, please do ask me during the question time. I am prepared to give you more examples if necessary and explain it to you in more detail because it's absolutely necessary for one to understand in order to proceed further and comprehend Dhamma, come to Sammaditya and become Sotapanna, which is our target. To become Sotapanna and protect ourselves from the 4 hells. So that's how this system of wholesome qualities, merits, unwholesome qualities, sins work in our mind. And now we are in a better position to understand Panchaskandha and the Pancha Upadana Skandha. So how do we develop a thought in our mind? Now, Lord Buddha said there are several things happen before we develop a thought. He said there are 6 entry points that sends data to our mind to help the mind to develop a thought. The 6 entry points are our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind itself. The past memories come into a certain part of the mind. So let's eye. Now, anything that the eye can see, any forms that the eye can see, the word that they are using in the English language is form. I don't like to use these English words, you see, because they are misleading. They don't give the correct meaning of the Magadhi word. So anything that you see, your eyes see, Lord Buddha called it Rupa Rupa. Then anything your ears can hear, any sound, Lord Buddha called it Shabda Rupa. Then any smell that your nose can feel, Lord Buddha called it Gandha Rupa. Then anything that your body can, your tongue can taste, he called it Rasa Rupa. And anything that your body can feel, he called it Pottabha Rupa. And anything that comes to your mind from your past memories, he called it Manorupa. So 6 types of rupas. Rupa, if you like, if you want to use the word, English word, it's a form. But I prefer you do not use those English words, because if you get used to those English words, as you go further down the line in Dhamma, that word, gives a misleading understanding of the Dhamma point that is actually there. So it's best to get used to the Magadhi word and remember the meaning of that word rather than trying to learn it using the English word. That's why I don't use the word attachment, anger, and ignorance. Instead I use raga, dvesha, moha, and also I use maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka instead of loving kindness, equanimity, and sympathetic joy. So similar here, I rather not use the English words. Let's try and remember the Magadhi words and the meaning of those words. So let's take the eye now. Anything that the eye can see is rupa. Then Lord Buddha said, before a person constructs a thought in his mind, 3 things happen: rupa, vedana, sanya. Rupa is now the rupa that I can see, the eye. Let's say you are standing in front of your door and you see a nice car going past by. And your eye will see the rupa of the car, the picture of the car. That's all the eye can see. It will see the picture and it will send it to the mind. It will not know whether it's a car or whether it's white color or what model it is, how many passengers were there. The eye cannot identify all that. All it does is like a camera, it takes the picture and sends it to the mind. And same with your ears, same with your nose, same with your tongue, same with your body, same with your past memories. So it's a rupa form that comes. So that's the first thing, rupa. Then the vedana. Vedana means feeling. The mind feels that some rupa came to the mind or some data came to the mind. That's called vedana, feeling. And then the third one is sanya. Sanya means identifying. The mind will identify what it is, whether it's a living being or a natural object. If it's a natural object, whether it's a car or a lorry or a tree or whatever. So the mind will identify, okay, it's a car and it's white in color. It has so many passengers. Whatever the eye has seen, the mind will identify. All these things happen within a fraction of a second. People do not know that these things happen. So once Rupa, Vedana, Sanya comes to the mind will start to construct a thought. There are 2 ways in which the mind can construct thoughts. It will either construct a thought using Raga, Dvesha, Moha, which means the thought is the end of the thought relates to continuing life in these 31 planes. If you go down the thought, it's a car, if the mind starts thinking about buying a car, the end of that thought ends up and in relation to continuation of life in these 31 planes. So that's the thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. On the other hand, the second way to construct a thought is a thought using your Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities. And those thoughts are called wholesome thoughts. And those thoughts, if you analyze the thought and go to the end of that thought, the end of that thought, the end of that road ends up at Nibbana. So your intention of constructing that thought is to become Sotapanna and get into this Nibbana Marga, Noble Eightfold Path. And why Noble Eightfold Path? In order to eradicate Raga, Dvesha, Moha and go to Nibbana. At least if you want to become Sotapanna now and get into the Nibbana path. The end of that path is Nibbana. So try and understand the differences. You may not understand it fully, but don't worry about it. As we go through the discussions, you will begin to understand more and more. So there are two ways of constructing thoughts, one with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. The second one is Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. The moment you construct the thought with Raga, Desha, Moha, that is called Sankara. Sang means Raga, Desha, Moha. Kara means action, the verb. So the process of constructing a thought with Raga, Desha, Moha is called Sankara. And the moment you commit a Sankara, you are creating a negative energy. In other words, the negative energy will be constructed or originated in your mind, and that is called vinyana. As long as you have this vinyana, negative energy power within your Vitakkasanthana, after that, your astral body will travel to another place within these 31 planes. We will try and understand those things in more detail later. Now let's look at the other side for a moment. Now when Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to your mind, instead of thinking about with Raga, Dvesha, Moha and committing a Sankara, if you think about with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, like the beggar came to your house and you feel, compassion, love, kindness towards this beggar, because you feel sad about his situation and you want to help him. So that's the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka thought. So when the Rupa Vedana Sanya, the Rupa was your eye saw the beggar coming in, and it sent the photo of the beggar to the mind, if you like, and the mind felt something came, some data, or let's say some photo, a Rupa came to the mind, and mind identified it as the beggar. Then if the mind, feels Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, if the mind's Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka quality comes up to that point, and if the mind starts constructing a thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, then you will feel sorry for the beggar, you will feel compassion, you will feel kindness towards him, and you feel like doing something for him. So that is called Visankara. So when you are constructing a thought with Raga, Desha, Moha, is called Sankara, and that is not good, and that produces a negative energy called Vijnana. Whereas if you construct the thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, that is not Sankara, that is called Visankara. Lord Buddha said, Visankara gatang chittang tanhayang kayamajyasi, which means is Visankara helps you to eradicate tanha. Tanha is the attachment with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So constructing a thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka is Visankara. Without realizing, and I think we have gone past the time, I will take a few more minutes to complete this point and give you time to ask questions. So Visankara, so when we do Visankara, we are creating a positive energy called Prajna. It's the Prajna that we need in order to understand Dhamma. Prajna is different from knowledge, intelligence. Intelligence is something people gain by learning and so on. But prajna is something you gain by practicing wholesome qualities. Now, when you do sankara, you are producing a negative energy called vijnana. When you do visankara, in other words, you construct thought with maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka, you are generating a positive energy called prajna. I think I will stop there now because we are coming almost close to 1.5 hours, maybe 1 hour, 1 hour, 20 minutes, because we started 10 minutes late. So we will stop there, and next time I will explain in more detail about the Chittasanthana and Sankara, Visankara, Vijnana, Prajna, and also Panchaskandha and Panchapadana Skandha. Okay, I will stop there now and give you time to ask any questions. You have 1 hour, 45 minutes. Please feel free to ask any question from what we discussed so far up to Sotapanna, Sotapanna Marga, and Sotapanna Phala.
Vandame Bhanteji, Naksen.
Namabuddha Naksen.
Yeah. The Chittasanthana, what you told about the 5 containers, right?
Yes.
How to eradicate the sins which came from the past life, as one cannot understand.
Well, we haven't come to that yet, you see. Now, after discussing the Panchaskandha and the Panchopadana Skandha, then we are moving on to another way that Lord Buddha has analyzed our karma, right? That is called dukkha dukkha, sankara dukkha, viparinama dukkha. The types of suffering that we have to undergo, Lord Buddha has classified into 3 categories: dukkha dukkha, sankara dukkha, viparinama dukkha. And then he has explained why we have to suffer sankara dukkha, the reason for sankara dukkha, the reason for dukkha dukkha, reason for dukkha dukkha, reason for sankara dukkha, and reason for viparinama dukkha. Then once you have identified the reason, he has explained to us how to eradicate that reason, right? So next thing that we'll be discussing after the Panchaskandha and Panchopadana Skandha is dukkha dukkha, sankara dukkha, viparinama dukkha. When we discuss that, I'll be explaining, as Lord Buddha has explained, how to eradicate sins. So if you can bear with me until I come to that point, we can discuss that in detail. That's the technique that Lord Buddha explained to Angulimala. As you all know, Angulimala was a person who killed more than 1,000 people. And Lord Buddha saw in his vision, early in the morning, he had a habit of looking at the world and checking who he can help. And that day, Angulimala came to his vision. So he went to Angulimala and brought him to the temple, tamed him and brought him to the temple and ordained him as a monk and taught him how to eradicate the sins that he has accumulated. So we'll be discussing that next.
Okay, Bhanteji. Another question, Bhanteji.
Yes.
Rupa, Vedana, and Sagyana. I mean, how it comes in our mind. I mean, why any experience we get in a life, is that something which bound to happen, or it is something when we analyze or observe, and the thoughts which again wholesome thought, unwholesome thought, based on our merits, it's supposed to happen with us. Suppose you say that you said that, given an example of beggar, right? Suppose
Yeah, I lost that word. Given the example of what? You see, you're mixing up several issues now. Now, let's talk about, firstly, you wanted to know why Rupa, Vedana, Sanya comes to our mind, right? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the first question, Gandhiji.
Right. You see, that's a part of the nature. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya comes to our mind. because we are born as human beings, right? We are born here as human beings because we didn't have enough wholesome qualities and merits to get out of these 31 planes and go to Nibbana. So obviously we have some sins that we have to suffer for. As a result of that, this Rupa Vedana Sanya keeps coming to our mind. Now, the Brahmins found a way, a meditation technique, several meditation techniques, to stop Rupa Vedana Sanya coming to their mind and making their mind go blank. And they thought that is the best thing to do. And they thought the best place to go to is Brahmaloka. By doing that, they were targeting Brahmaloka. But Lord Buddha practiced all those techniques and he realized, and that is wrong. He found out, he realized that Brahmaloka, those Brahmalokas are not good. And the place to go to is Nibbana. We have to come out of these 31 planes and go to Nibbana, and that is the only permanent place without suffering. Where else you go, if you stop Rupa Vedana Sanya coming to your mind, yes, Brahmins have developed meditation techniques that helps you to do that. And today, many religions practice those techniques. They are all based on breathing, and there are more than 30 of them. There are 40 of them given by Buddha Ghosha in the Visuddhimagga. They all do the same thing. They make your mind go blank. Your mind will be taken through 5 steps called Vitakka Vichara, Savitakka Savichara, Priti Sukha, Ekagrata. 7 stages, 6 stages, and the 7th one, Ekagrata, means your mind goes blank. And you can stay like a statue for, God knows what, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Some, I know some monks in Sri Lanka, they spend 6-7 hours at a time in one session by making their mind go blank. They think that is the way to Nibbana. And but Lord Buddha said that it's not the way, that is wrong. And if you do that, you will end up in a very big trouble. You will end up in bad Brahmaloka, where you'll be living there for very long time like a statue. And once your merits run out, you'll be left with the sins and you will fall back into the 4 hells. So that's an indirect route to the 4 hells. So Lord Buddha said, stopping Rupa Vedana Sanya coming to your mind is not the answer. The answer is stopping constructing unwholesome thoughts and to learn, practice, and develop your mind to a certain level, certain stage where your mind will be able to practice wholesome thoughts all the time. You see, what Brahmins tried to do was to stop Rupa Vedana Sanya coming to your mind and stop the thought process altogether. Lord Buddha said, no, that's not right, right? If you do that, you are going to be in trouble. The correct thing to do is stop constructing unwholesome thoughts and train your mind to construct wholesome thoughts all the time. Let the Rupa Vedana Sanya come in and you take one of them and practice wholesome thoughts. Does that answer your question, or do you have any more clarifications on that? If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask.
I mean, it answers the question, Bhanteji. Thank you. Another follow-up regarding the same. You have given an example of beggar to, why it is important to develop karuna, mudita, and upekha. I mean, if by generating these feelings, in particular in this context to the beggar, am I not giving him opportunity to eradicate his sins, the bigger sins? If I be a good with him, he may not become out of his sins, or he may not be able to eradicate his sins. So
now, when you say him, who do you mean by him?
Beggar. I mean, you given an example of the beggar, right? So
now you are mixing up 2 questions again here. Ask one question first. Now, what's the first part of the question?
The first part of the question is like why it is important to develop karuna, mudita, and upekha.
Right. Why is it important to develop Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekha, right? Is that the question?
Yeah, Bhanteji.
Right. Why it is important, you see, because Lord Buddha said, we must not stop thoughts coming into our mind. We must not stop Rupa, Vedana, Sanya coming into our mind. That's a wrong path. If you take that path, you will end up in trouble. What you have to do is let them come in. So there are two, when they come, there are two ways in which you can construct thoughts. One is the unwholesome way, the other one is the wholesome way. Wholesome way is constructing the thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekha. Why it is good? Because when you do that, from one hand, you are releasing positive energy into the environment and earning merits. On the other hand, you are strengthening your wholesome qualities, which will improve your wisdom, which will help you to understand the truth about the world, the Four Noble Truths. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Bhanteji, thank you.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
And now, Buddha,
I would like to ask a question about, so when we construct a thought with Rupa, Vedana, and Sanya, and we say, for instance, we have an unwholesome thought with Rupa, Vedana, and Sanya, but then we become aware that it's an unwholesome thought, so we stop the action from being unwholesome. You see, so we realize that, oh, that's an unwholesome thought, so I'm going to change my action and make the action a wholesome action with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, or, you know, Mudita or Upekha. So you see, you stop the thought from, you don't stop it because you've already had it, you know, you've already had the unwholesome thought, but then you become aware and you change your action from being unwholesome to wholesome.
yes. So what's your question there?
So where is the sin? Is there a sin? Because, you know, it's like the biggest sin is to have an unwholesome thought, right?
Yes.
So you've done that sin of having the unwholesome thought, but then you've changed that to make it a wholesome action. So then, is it still a sin or half a sin, or what is that? Do you know?
Well, it depends on how long you practice the unwholesome thought in your mind before you start converting into a wholesome thought, right? So what you are supposed to do is, let's say 1 second, even 1 second you practice an unwholesome thought, 1 second you will be earning sins and also unwholesome qualities, right? Then after that, if you practice wholesome thoughts for 1 hour, 1 hour you will be earning merits, and also 1 hour you will be earning wholesome qualities. So it's like that. What you should really do, you see, now at the initial stage, that's what happens to people. You have to, you know, you can't do it overnight. In other words, when sometimes, you know, you start thinking about something and suddenly realize that it's an unwholesome thought, then you know this is wrong. You will stop thinking unwholesome thought and you will start thinking of a wholesome thought, right? That's what happens in practice, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's how people start at the beginning, you know. Now, 2 hours at home, we are practicing this. And thereafter, when we are living our normal day-to-day life, we try to stop any unwholesome thoughts coming to our mind. Try and keep wholesome thoughts in our mind all the time. But it's not easy at the beginning, you know, without realizing. suddenly we'll be thinking of an unwholesome thought. So what we have to do is, as soon as we realize it, we stop the unwholesome thought and start thinking of a wholesome thought. But the sins that we have earned by thinking that unwholesome thought for 5 seconds, let's say, that is there, right? That will be accumulated in that box number 4, which we will have to eradicate by practicing what Angulimala did, which we are going to discuss next, right? So any sins that we have accumulated, Lord Buddha said, apart from 2 types of sins, the 2 big ones, which we will discuss in detail next time, the 2 big ones, all the others can be eradicated, he said. So we will discuss them in detail. So you are asking a very practical question. In fact, good questions are coming today. Nagsen asked some very good questions. You are also asking a good practical question. It shows that you are trying to do it in practice, which is very, very good, rather than just listening and forget about it. You know, you are asking practical questions now, which means you are trying to practice it. That's very good. So the question that you are asking is, you know, without realizing, you are practicing an unwholesome thought in your mind. Suddenly you realize it's unwholesome. Immediately you change over to a wholesome thought. That's the best that you can do at that stage, right? But whatever the sins that you have accumulated, whatever the unwholesome qualities that you have accumulated, they will be in box number 3 and 4. Later, you will have to use the meditation techniques, what we are going to discuss after this, and eradicate them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, anyone?
Can I ask another, if nobody has a question?
No, you can ask any number of questions.
So you said there's the 5 boxes. I seem to have missed 2 boxes. So the first box is wholesome thoughts.
Yes.
The second one is merits, you know.
Yes.
And then third one is unwholesome qualities.
Right.
And the 4th one and 5th one is what?
The 4th one is sins. And the 5th one is past memories.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone? Good, you know, people have started to think now. That is what is necessary, you know, yoniso manasikara. Very good. Please ask your question. Hello?
Vandami Bhante, yes.
Nambuddhai, what's your name, sir?
My name is Pankaj Bhante.
Hello, Pankaj.
Bhante, my question is, when I'm also part of the, I was also part of the first series you did, Bhante.
Yes.
Yeah, Bhante. So now I'm looking towards the practical side of it, and how you described the practice was.
Yes.
Is that what we are doing right now, Bhante? So far, how you explained it, we are trying to get the sins minimized or reduced.
Exactly. We are trying to gradually eradicate unwholesome qualities and gradually eradicate sins and gradually develop wholesome qualities and gradually accumulate more and more merits. That's the whole idea.
Okay, Bhante. So for a Sotapanna stage, or to reach to that level, what needs to happen with these 5 boxes, Bhante? So that's,
you see, what needs to happen is we must have enough wholesome qualities and enough merits to be able to develop our wisdom to the required level to understand the 4 noble truths, so that once we have understood the 4 noble truths, we come to Sammaditi and become Sotapanna. And at the same time, you know, we are once we have acquired that knowledge, we are getting 4 Buddha Jnanas, 4 wisdoms that Samma Sambuddha has, and that is called Dukkha Jnanam, Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam, Dukkha Nirodha Jnanam, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada Jnanam, once we have got those four wisdoms, we would automatically eradicate the three bonds that binds us to the samsara. That's Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikiccha, Silabhata Paramasa. When that happens, we have come to Samadhi. We have comprehended Samadhi and we are Sotapanna. Sotapanna is Sota means Nibbana Marga. Apanna means arrived at. In English, they call it stream enterer. Right? So in order to arrive at the stream or to become a stream enterer or to become Sotapanna, what you need is to come to Samadhi. To come to Samadhi, you have to comprehend the Four Noble Truths, right? At the first level. To comprehend the Four Noble Truths, you have to do four things. Kalyana Mitra Sevana, Sri Saddharma Stravana, Yoniso Manasikara, Dhammanudhamma Patipada. That's what we are doing now. We are doing Kalyana Mitra Sevana, Sri Saddharma Stravana, Yoniso Manasikara, and Dhammanudhamma Patipada you are doing from home, right? You are spending 2 hours a day to practice Dhammanudhamma Patipada and try and gradually extend that practice to your normal day-to-day life. As and when you do that, your wisdom will go up and you will begin to understand the Four Noble Truths more and more. The first thing is to understand what suffering is all about. What is the noble truth of suffering? Because the average person believes that samsara, sang means raga, desha, moha, sara means good, the right thing to do. So the average person believes that practicing raga, dvesha, moha, in other words, doing sankara and enjoying aswada is the thing to do. That's what even the Western education system teaches people to do. What do they teach? You know, they say work hard, learn all these, and they're teaching competition instead of compassion, make money, enjoy yourself. You know, the Western education system is all about developing raga, desha, moha. Tell me, but in one place in the Western education system where they say, you know, help your classmates and think of them, don't be selfish, have compassion instead of competition. The moment you use the word competition, compassion goes out of the window. That's what has happened to the world today, you know. Before the Westerners came into our countries, we had these good qualities. Whether we practice Buddhism or Hinduism or Buddhism, because all those things, all the Eastern religions that we had, including what Lord Jesus Christ preached, and Prophet Muhammad preached what Lord Jesus Christ preached. He just copied the Bible. So all these religions that we had in the East were based on Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka in one way or the other. Certain element of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka was there because all those religions have come from Buddha Dhamma. If you go to the beginnings, you see, now Lord Jesus Christ was a Buddhist monk, Guru Nanak was a Buddhist monk, and all the Buddhism, the various fractions of Buddhism has come from Buddha Dhamma. Then Islam came from Christianity, right? Judaism came from both of them. So if you take all the major religions, they all have come from Buddha Dhamma. They have taken certain parts of Buddha Dhamma and made a religion. They were either Buddhist monks or good people who learned that, and whatever they understood, they preached it and people gave it a name and called a religion. So that's how all these religions came about, and they all have Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka to a certain extent. So you are asking why it is necessary to develop this Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, right?
No, Bhante,
does that answer your question?
My question was to what happens to these 5 boxes, or what needs to happen to these 5 boxes.
Sorry. Say that again, my dear. Sorry, I didn't catch that word.
Yes, Bhante. My question was, what needs to happen with these 5 boxes? I mean, what I'm guessing is
five boxes.
boxes.
Yeah, 5
right?
boxes. What we have to do is the box number 1 we have to fill with wholesome qualities. Box number 2 we have to fill it as much as possible with merits. Box number 3 we have to empty it gradually, where we have these unwholesome qualities, and try and get rid of it altogether. Same thing with box number 4, where we have sins, try and get rid of it as much as possible. That's what we do through Dhammanudhamma Patipada.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Maximize our wholesome qualities, maximize our merits, minimize our unwholesome qualities, minimize our sins, eventually get rid of unwholesome qualities and sins completely. Empty box number 3 and box number 4.
Yes, Bhante. Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Bhanteji, Venerable Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's your name, sir?
I'm Bhante Arya Brahma.
Hello, Bhante. Namo Buddhaya.
Bhante. Regarding the precepts, actually, there are 227 precepts. That's what that's what I know. But recently I heard that there is a koti. Koti is a crore or something like that. There are unlimited precepts that has to be followed or something like that. So the Sri Lankan monks with whom I interacted, they denied that 227 precepts are there, and they told there are unlimited actually. So can you please comment on this?
Yeah, very good question. You see, Lord Buddha said in Magadhi language, Kotyak Sangvara Sila. Sila is discipline, the precepts, disciplines. One has to, whether it's a lay person or a monk, if he wants to practice this path, he will have to observe Kotyak Sangvara Sila. Only the Arahat does that. Kotyak means unlimited number. Sila is disciplines. So in order to fulfill that requirement, all we have to do is stop practicing unwholesome qualities and keep practicing wholesome qualities. There's only one thing that we have to do correctly: watch our mind, look after our mind, right? As long as we do that, if we don't have an unwholesome thought coming into our mind, we will not do anything unwholesome verbally, physically, or mentally. That means we will not commit any sins, right? So having said that, now when they started religions, the obvious the first big five, to explain this to people, explaining Kotyak Sangvara Sila to ordinary people is not easy. So someone decided that, let's say, the first 5, the Panatipata, Adinadana, Kamesumichachara, and so on, the 5 precepts, they said, okay, try and observe the 5 precepts first, right? Then when it came to monks, from time to time, Lord Buddha had to introduce new rules, because there were certain things that monks didn't understand. They kept on repeating that, right? So Lord Buddha said, don't do this, because when you say Kotyak Sangvara Sila, some monks don't understand. You see, the wisdom, the capability of understanding differs from person to person. So, so instead of explaining all this process, Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, how we do unwholesome, the process that I explained, there were monks who couldn't understand that. So Lord Buddha said, for those monks, there were certain monks who were doing certain wrong things very often. So the other monks came and complained. So he introduced a new discipline. This 229 or 225 or whatever was built up that way. It was, he didn't introduce them at once. Now, some of the precepts were introduced after, some of those disciplines were introduced after 10 years of attaining Buddhahood. Some were after 15 years. Would you agree?
Yes, Bhanteji.
So when you say it's unlimited number of disciplines, yes, that's correct. But in order to observe unlimited number of disciplines, there's only one thing you have to do, which is to look after your mind. Stop thinking of unwholesome thoughts and always think of wholesome thoughts. That is what we mean by sabbapapassa karanang kusalassa upasampada. Right? Sabbapapassa karanang means eradicate all unwholesome. And kusalassa upasampada means practice, cultivate, and accumulate wholesome. When you say wholesome thoughts, the thought becomes action, then the action becomes a quality, right? So all you have to do is just one thing, but it's not easy to do, but not difficult to do, not impossible. It's not rocket science. One has to practice it, right? So if one does that, tell me if one practice, now think about it, if a person can stop practicing unwholesome thoughts and only practice wholesome thoughts, can he ever commit any sin? Tell me one sin he can commit if he's practicing wholesome thoughts all the time. Out of the 1,000,001 sins that there are, one could commit, none of those sins can be committed if you have a wholesome thought in your mind and you put it into wholesome action. You will end up in merits and not sins. So that monk is right. It's not only a limited number, it's an unlimited number. But in order to achieve that unlimited number of disciplines, in other words, in order to observe that unlimited number of disciplines, whether it's lay people or monks, all they have to do is just one thing: control their mind. Stop practicing unwholesome thoughts and develop and cultivate wholesome thoughts. Everything begins with a thought. If your thought is wholesome, your action will be wholesome. If your thought is unwholesome, your action will be unwholesome. Does that answer your question, Bhante?
Yes, Bhante, it's very clear.
If it is
Bhante.
not clear, you can ask further questions. If you have if you need any other clarifications, please feel free to ask.
Yes, it's clear, Bhante, but I have another question that is, can you please talk something about your meditative attainments, Bhante?
Sorry, the question is not clear to me.
Your meditative attainments, Bhante, about your meditative attainments, like Sakadagami, Anagami, or something like that, Bhante.
We are talking of only up to Sotapanna. We are not going beyond that. So let's stick to Sotapanna. Ask any question up to Sotapanna.
Okay, Bhante. No, about your attainments, Bhante. That's what I thought of. No, I was wondering, Bhante. That's why. Okay, Bhante. Thank you. Okay, Bhante. Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone?
Hello, Bhante ji. I am a friend of Pankaj ji. He's invited me for your wonderful talk. And
What's
I
your
wanted
name,
to ask
madam?
Sherry.
Sherry. Okay, Sherry.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I have a question regarding the fifth box, which is memories, our past. So let's say
Yes, good question. Right.
Let's say it's a traumatic memory which comes up, and then so what to do then? I went into forgiveness mode because the unwholesome thought that was coming was this expectation from that person to say sorry to me.
You see, what you have to do is now you are mixing up two, three questions here again. let's start from the beginning. Now, in the box number 5, what you have is past memories. Since the day you came into this universe as a living being, everything that you have learned, you have heard, is in that memory, right? It's there. It's just that we don't have the retrieving power. Our wisdom is not powerful enough to retrieve that information, right? But as we go on through this process and become Sotapanna, Sakudagami, Anagami, Arahat monks, depending on, Arahat also can be at different levels, but depending on their, level of Arahathood, they can retrieve that information going back to 200 lives, some 400 lives, some 1,000 lives. I knew an Anagami monk in Sri Lanka. He could go back to 200 lives, 200 previous lives in his samsara and retrieve information from there because his wisdom had been developed to that level. So that's point number 1. That box contains everything that you have learned throughout your samsara, right?
Yes.
Then what's your next question? The next question wasn't clear to me.
My question was that if a memory pops up from that memory box, a traumatic memory, resulting in an unwholesome feeling and unwholesome thought from my end, which is, I wanted a sorry from that person. So what I did was I started practicing forgiveness towards that person and maitri, karuna.
Very good, very good. That's what you are supposed to do. In order to get rid of your, unwholesome thought, you have to practice a wholesome thought. You're 100% right there. That's exactly what Lord
sensations
Buddha asked
also
us
in the
to do.
body.
That's 100% right. When bad thoughts are unwholesome thoughts are coming to you, when thoughts are coming to your mind, which forces you to create an unwholesome thought in your mind. In other words, information is coming to your mind. Let's say from past memories, someone who did something to upset you. If that keeps coming to your mind and it makes you angry or feel bad towards that person, or feel like saying something to him, then if this particular data of this particular rupa that's coming to your mind is creating an unwholesome thought in your mind. So in order to avoid that, there are several things you can do. In Vitakkasanthana Sutra, there are 6 techniques that Lord Buddha has explained. One of the techniques is exactly what you said just now. You see, you can practice a wholesome thought. You can practice forgiveness for him. You can practice loving kindness meditation towards him and say, that thought keeps coming to you because in a previous life you have done something wrong to him, right? So as a result of that, this keeps coming back to you as a punishment to make you do more wrong things. What you have to do is if you start practicing a wholesome thought, for example, as you said, if you start, forgiving him and transferring merits to him and wish him nibbana, and that is perfect, you see. So that's what you are supposed to do. What you have done is quite right. And that will help you to eradicate that unwholesome thought coming to your mind. So every time when that person comes to your mind, now because you know Dhamma, you know why it's coming to your mind. He's coming to trouble you because you have done something wrong to him. So you ask him for forgiveness, transfer merits to him, wish him well. Once you keep on doing that, you will see your feeling towards that person will gradually melt away. If you had a bad feeling towards him, that bad part of it will go away. Next time when his rupa comes to your mind, it's just a person, right? Not the person who upset you, not the person who makes you feel angry. It's just a person.
Yes.
So what you did was right, quite right. Good question. These are practical questions. It's good where today lots of practical questions are coming up. It means that people are doing yoniso manasikara. They are thinking about it and they are trying to practice it, which is very, very good.
So will you be telling us the 5 or 6 other things we can do for these?
Yes, I'll be explaining that. Towards the end of these discussions, I'll be explaining the Dvedhavitakka Sutra and the Vitakkasanthana Sutra. In the Dvedhavitakka Sutra in Majjhima Nikaya, Lord Buddha explained how he discovered Buddha Bhavana Anapana meditation technique, how he practiced it through the practice of it, how he came across jhana, how he left the jhanas and went forward and became Sotapanna, Sakudagami, Anagami, Arahat, and attained Buddhahood. And then the next sutra, Vitakkasanthana Sutra, he explains while he was practicing this Buddha Bhavana Anapana meditation technique, when unwholesome thoughts came to his mind, like you just explained, when unwholesome thoughts came to his mind, what he did, right? He had discovered 6 techniques to get rid of those unwholesome thoughts and go back to wholesome thoughts. So one of the techniques is you just mentioned, and there are 5 other techniques as well. We will explain them in detail when we come to that stage in a few weeks' time.
Right. Thank you, Bhante.
Any other questions, anyone?
Vandami Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Bhante, Pankaj again. So I had one question related to the what happens at the time of death. You were mentioning the mind dies and the body here dies, but something gets carried forward.
So I'm losing words in between. Can you repeat that question? Speak a
Yes.
little louder if you can, please.
Yes, Bhante. Bhante, so I'm talking about at the time of death. You mentioned that the body here dies, the mind associated with the body here also dies here. But what get carried forward is this, the collection that we have, these 5 boxes in Vitakkasanthana. But we also have something like a thought process that gets carried forward, Bhante. So where does that get carried forward? So out besides this 5 box, where else am I carrying this chitta?
Yes, good question, very good question. You see, Lord Buddha said, when we die, our physical body will die, and also the mind that we have in the physical body will die, right? What's traveling to the next life is, as long as we have vijnana, this negative energy, in other words, we have enough unwholesome qualities and sins, then it produces, the unwholesome qualities produces vijnana, and our astral body, or the what we call the manomaya kaya, will travel to another place. So when it goes there, now in Paticcasamuppada Dhamma, it says avidya paccaya sankara, sankara paccaya vijnanam, vijnana paccaya nama rupa. Avidya paccaya sankara. That what it means is, due to avidya, that's lack of knowledge of the 4 noble truths. Vidya is knowing the 4 noble truths. Lord Buddha said, remember, chakkung uddapadi, jnanang uddapadi, panya uddapadi, vidya uddapadi. Vidya means the science of this universe. So avidya means not knowing the 4 noble truths. Avidya paccaya sankara. Because of not knowing the 4 noble truths, people commit sankara, avidya paccaya sankara. Sankara paccaya vijnana. When a person commits sankara, when a person takes rupa vedana sanya and commits sankara, it produces vijnana. Vijnana paccaya nama rupam. It's the vijnana that is in that astral body, or the manomaya kaya, that creates the new physical body and the mind. New physical body and the new mind. The 6 senses, you know, it's the vijnana that produces the 6 senses. Those 6 senses are eyes, ears, nose, body, tongue, and the 6th one is mind. So you will have a new body, new mind. The old body and the old mind will die when you die. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Bhante.
Good questions. If you have any other questions on that, feel free to ask. You see, it's important to understand these things. The questions that people are asking today, they are very, very good questions, because that helps you to understand certain Dhamma points, which you need to understand in order to comprehend the Four Noble Truths at the first level and become Sotapanna.
Vandame Bhante.
Nama Buddhaya, what's your name, sir?
My name is Arun Shamkul.
Hello, Arun.
I am from Mumbai. I just want to this Chuti Chitta and Patisandhi Chitta. How you relate with the Manomaya Kaya?
Right. Chutta Sitta is the final thought that comes to your mind, right? If a person is Sotapanna, always he will get a wholesome thought, if he's Sotapanna or above. If a person is not Sotapanna, and if he's on the Sotapanna Marga, and depends on how close he is to become Sotapanna, he might get a wholesome thought. Now, the Sotapanna person or the person above Sotapanna, he will always get a wholesome thought. He will go to a better place. If he is Sotapanna or Sakuddagami, he will go to a good Dvedhavitakka. And if he is Anagami, he will go to a Brahmaloka. If he is already Arahat, he will go to Nibbana. Then a person who is not Sotapanna yet, but on the Sotapanna Marga, he's following the path, but not Sotapanna. As the Chutta Sitta, as the final thought, if he gets a wholesome thought, he will come back to the human world. He will get a better chance to become a Sotapanna, better opportunity. On the other hand, if that person gets an unwholesome thought, even though he was in the Sotapanna Marga, again, he will go to the four hells. Then the category that's left with people who have done nothing, neither Sotapanna nor in the Sotapanna Marga, they will go to the four hells, direct. Then you get people who have accumulated a lot of merits, but instead of wishing Nibbana, they have been wishing for comforts and comfortable lives. You see, these merits are like money in the bank. If you have worked hard for a while and saved £1 million, you can use that £1 million for either good things or for bad things. Similarly, you do a lot of meritorious deeds and you accumulate merits. You can either use merits to go down the Nibbana path, or you can use those merits to circulate in these 31 planes and enjoy some aswada. So a person who has been accumulating merits and wishing for comforts, cars, houses, money, and so on, that person will get it in a bad Dvedhavitakka. So bad Dvedhavitakas are like nightclubs. There's no Dhamma there. He will enjoy to the maximum until the merits run out. Once the merits are over, he'll be left with the sins. In order to pay for the sins, he will fall down to the four hells. So that's an indirect route to the four hells. So it's important that one should engage in meritorious deeds as much as possible, but use those meritorious deeds to go down the right path. All the merits that you accumulated, every day you transfer them to other living beings living on the 31 planes, then your merits will double and triple. And then you wish that with the power of those merits, all those living beings and yourself attain Nibbana. Then you fall into the right path. You see, for the merits that you are accumulating, you will get what you ask for, right? So it's like with the money, you can buy what you want. You can use it for good purpose or bad purpose. Similarly, the merits that you accumulate, you can use it for the good purpose, which is to go down the Nibbana path, or you can use it for the bad purpose to circulate in this, between these 31 planes, enjoying some maswada and having to undergo enormous amount of suffering. So that's that category. Then the other category who have been practicing wrong meditation techniques, they go to this one of the 16 bad Brahma lokas, where they'll be there for like statues, because the meditation technique that they have practiced makes their mind blank, and they will have a blank mind as the Chutasita. They will have no thoughts, and such people will go to those bad Brahma loka. There's no suffering as such there, but those people will be there for a very, very long periods of time, living like statues, because they are not getting any thoughts coming into their mind, no Rupa Vedana Sanya coming into their mind. So they'll be there for a long, long time. And while they are there, because there's no suffering, their merits will gradually run out. And once the merits are over, they are left with the sins, and they will, in order to pay for the sins, just like the previous category, they will also fall into the four hells. You see? Then the remaining category who have done nothing, absolutely nothing, and just enjoy life here, they will go to the four hells anyway. So this is the danger. It's only those Sotapanna and those who have gone above have a guarantee that they will not go to the four hells. They will go down the Nibbana path, they will go to a better place. All the others, even if a person is in the Sotapanna Marga and not become Sotapanna, and he has a 50-50 chance of coming back to the human world or going to the four hells. All the others will end up in four hells, either directly or indirectly through the bad Brahma Loka or through the bad Divya Loka. Does that answer your question? Or if you want any further clarifications, please
one
do
more
ask.
clarification on that. When man dies, that Nama and Rupa. So the Nama migrates, or Chitta or mind that migrates, or it dies with the body?
Body dies and the mind dies. You see, when you die, your body will die, your mind will die. You see, the Vijnana, the negative energy that you have in your Chittasanthana, that will create a new body and a new mind. Avidya pacchaya sankara, sankara pacchaya vijnanam, vijnana pacchaya nama rupam. It's the vijnana that creates the nama rupa. The nama rupa you had in this life, that will be dead.
Bhante ji.
Yes, sir.
So this new mind is with all the kamma. That means when the new rebirth take place, that Vijnana is zero, or again there are kamma or kamma in his bhavanga.
You see, don't mix this bhavanga and all that. That's wrong Abhidhamma. I explained to you inside the astral body, the Manomaya Kaya, there's Chittasanthana. Chittasanthana has 5 boxes. First box has unwholesome qualities. Second box has all the merits. Third box have unwholesome qualities. And the fourth box have all the sins. So you are taking your merits and sins with you in the Chittasanthana, which is in your astral body. Is Bhavanga and all that, that's all, don't mix them up. I call them mambo jumbo.
It answered, Bhante.
If you go to learn Abhidhamma, you will never become Sotapanna. Because that Abhidhamma that is in the Tripitaka is not the Abhidhamma that Lord Buddha preached to the superior beings. And that is only for superior beings anyway. It's not for us, those Abhidhamma.
It answered my question.
Beg your pardon?
It answered my question.
Yeah. If you have any, if it is not clear, please ask more questions on that.
Bhanteji, Naksin again.
Yes, Nansen.
Yeah, Bhanteji. Just seek a clarification on merits. What actions been treated as a merits? I mean, what exactly the merit is? Suppose if I steal something and I give to the poor, is that been treated as a merits?
You see, a merit is something, if your action, whatever you do, benefits someone, right? If it is beneficial to someone, either a living being or a living plant or tree, if it is beneficial to them, that is a merit to you. If it is harmful to them, that is a sin to you, right? All your actions will be either beneficial or harmful to others. Just think about it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, some actions are maybe harmful to someone and beneficial for someone.
Give me an example.
Maybe I done a robbery in a bank, and using that money, I have feed to the poor.
No, you can't do that, you see, because you have to earn your money the hard way. Don't go and break banks.
No, I mean, is this particular action?
You see, that's wrong action, because you are taking someone else's money, which you are not supposed to do. You see, if you want to give dana, you have to work hard and earn your money. You can't rob someone else's money and give dana.
Yeah, I mean, Robin Hood has been treated as an, I mean, the person who is very kind and all. We used to hear the stories about him. So just was seeking a clarification on the merits, like how the merits.
You see, that's action due to moha. You see, not knowing the Four Noble Truths. When he robs the bank, it's raga dvesha moha there, you see, which is not supposed to do. He's earning a lot of sins, but by giving the money away and doing something good to other people, he will earn little merits. That's true, if he's doing with the right intention, right? But Robin Hood's intentions, I don't know what his intentions were. But having said all that, the sins will be greater than the merits there. Because, robbing from one person to give it to another person, you cannot justify that.
No, even
I know the system is unfair. The people who are doing wrong things, in Salleka Sutra, there's a sutra called Salleka Sutra, which Lord Buddha said that there are 44 good qualities that children should be taught from a young age, and they should be made to practice them. Unfortunately, most Buddhist people don't know these things. But it's very, very important that children should be taught those 44 qualities and made them to practice them from a very young age. Then they turn out to be very good Buddhists. Otherwise, they end up in all sorts of trouble, you see, in life. I can give you many, many examples. For example, in Sri Lanka 50 years ago, these people had these good qualities, and the divorce rate in Sri Lanka was less than 1%. The family unit was very stronger, people were happier, and so on. People didn't have televisions and cars and mobile phones and all that, but people were happier, they lived better lives, they didn't know what stress means, and there was no divorce, hardly any divorce. I didn't know anyone who was divorced those days. But now, if you look at the professional class in the cities, the divorce rate in Sri Lanka among the professional class is about 40%, because they don't know that their parents, all they did was, in the younger generation, they pushed them to education, get qualifications, make money. That was the thing that was pushed down their throat day and night. So that's what they learned. They learned to do something whether it's right or wrong, whether it's rob a bank or whatever. Do whatever you have to do to make money, enjoy life. So that's what the children learned. And they started breaking the family unit, because once the children grew up, they had no respect for parents. They called the father old man, mother old woman. They don't care about them. And they don't care. Husband doesn't care about wife. Wife doesn't care about husband. They don't know anything about tolerance. They cannot, they don't understand for a relationship to work out. There must be compromise from both sides. And for the first thing to go wrong, they walk their separate ways. You see, this is what happens. So it's important that these good qualities are taught to children. In these good qualities, Lord Buddha says, just because other people do such and such, you shouldn't, right? So just because other people, the society has created an unfair system, right, due to actions of the rulers, we shouldn't do the same thing. For example, I know some people who are involved in corruption, people who are at the middle level in the society. They say, oh, the president does that, prime minister do that, why can't we? You know, let them do that and let them go to the four hells. We don't want to, right? So Lord Buddha said, just because other people do wrong things, don't make it an excuse to do wrong things yourself. We must do the right thing. Let them do the wrong thing. We can have a peaceful sleep in the night. We'll be happier. After that, we'll go to a better place. And they maybe have a bigger bank balance, but they can't sleep in the night. They'll be unhappy and they will die and go to the four hells. So who is better off? Don't go to rob banks and give dana. Just give dana whatever you can afford and practice loving kindness meditation. If you want to earn merits, it doesn't cost anything.
Agree, Bhante ji. Thank you.
Vandami Bhante ji.
Enam Buddha, eh?
Yeah, I'm Vaishali here, Bhante ji.
Hello, Vaishali.
I have a question here, Bhante ji.
Yes.
So this is a follow-up question to Shamkul ji's question. So
yes,
about the Nam Rupa, like
yes,
when a body dies, the mind also dies.
Yes.
So like Vijnana Pachaya Nama Rupa. So to this, Bhante, I have this question that, like you said, the Patisandhi Chitta arises from the Chuti Chitta.
Yes.
And the Vijnana, that means which is the driving force of the Chuti Chitta would be the Patisandhi Chitta. Is that right, what I'm understanding, Bhante ji?
Well, the Chuti Chitta has a bearing on the Patisandhi Chitta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chuti Chitta will decide where you will go, right?
Yes, Bhante ji.
So the Patisandhi Chitta is the Chitta, that the first Chitta that you will have in the new place.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yes, Bhante.
So there's a bearing, but there's no, they are not directly connected to each other, but there's a bearing, you see, because the Chuti Chitta will decide where you go. Depending on where you go, you will have your Patisandhi Chitta.
And that will give rise to the Nam Rup there, in that realm.
Yes, Nama Rupa will be decided by the Vijnana, right? The strength of the Vijnana. And also there's a sixth box called, now let me think of the word. It's called Uppatti Bija. You see now the words that Lord Buddha has used for the contents in these boxes, they are called Kusala Bija, then merits and sins, then the past memories, and Uppatti Bija. Uppatti Bija is an egg, right? Uppatti means birth. So while you are living this life according to the merits, the wholesome qualities, the merits, unwholesome qualities, and the sins that you are accumulating, you will also be making these eggs, the Uppatti Bija, different types of Uppatti Bija to be planted in different planes, in distant planes. depending on what you do. For example, a person who lives a good life, who is following the Noble Eightfold Path, or someone who is following the Sotapanna Marga, he is more likely to make good eggs that can be planted in good places, like good Divyaloka, good Brahmaloka, and so on. But most of the time, people who do not know Dhamma, they are practicing unwholesome thoughts every day, at least 30,000 unwholesome thoughts a day. Lord Buddha said an average person will have minimum of 30,000 thoughts a day. So 30,000 times he'll be, committing sins and accumulating unwholesome thoughts. So at the end of the day, he would have constructed lots of bija, upatti bija, that will carry him to that he can plant in bad places, like the animal kingdom, the ghost Bhutaloka, Pretaloka, and the hell itself, right? So depending on the bijas that he has, now depending on the final thought that he has, the vijnana will pick up a bija from there. For example, a human being who has been living a life committing sankhara all the time, he would have constructed bija that can be planted in the animal kingdom, in the ghost kingdom, and the inferior ghost kingdom, and the hell itself. So as a final chitta, chutta citta, he will have an unwholesome thought, and the vijnana will plant, vijnana will take the astral body will travel to one of those bad places, and those bijas are ready to be planted wherever it needs to be planted, right? So the relationship, the question that you are asking about Nama Rupa will be created by the vijnana according to the bija that the vijnana is planting there. The type of bija that you plant depends on the type of bija that you have grown in your place where you have been accumulating this upatti bija. And what you have grown depends on the merits, the wholesome qualities and the merits, and the unwholesome qualities and the sins that you have accumulated throughout your life. Does that answer your question, Vaishali?
Yes, Bhante. I was also thinking about the kamma in this case. The kamma, like
so
coming
kamma
to
is,
the.
you see, merits and sins, isn't it?
So when we are having a new birth, at that time, the vijnana is carrying forward the force of the kamma along with it.
Well, you see, what is traveling is the entire astral body. Inside the astral body, we have the storage facility called Vitakkasanthana, right? This Vitakkasanthana has, let's say, 6 boxes. Now, more than 6 actually. We are concerned with 6 at this stage. First box has our wholesome qualities. Second box has our good karma, merits, right? Third box has our unwholesome qualities and our bad karma, sins. Then the fourth box has our past memories. The fifth box has our past memories. And sixth box has upatti bija. So the astral body is taking the entire thing with it. Everything is in there, right? And the unwholesome qualities has the power. Unwholesome qualities is like a battery, and the energy produced by that is called vijnana. And the wholesome qualities like a battery, and the energy that is produced by that is called prajna.
Yes, Bhante.
So the entire thing is traveling with it, with the astral body. Is the astral body that travels inside that, the Vitakkasanthana storage facility. The storage facility has the lot.
Yes, Bhante. Thank you so much.
Bhanteji, can you elaborate the Sankhara and Vijnana and their interrelation?
Yes, yes. Yes, you see, Sankhara Sang means raga, desha, moha, kara means action. So when rupa, vedana, sanya comes to your mind, if your mind starts thinking, constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha, that's a sankara. Now to mind is like a hardware. It's like a central processing unit. It needs a program to construct this thought. The program that mind can use is either Vijnana program or the Prajna program. If your Vijnana program is strong, most of the time mind will be using the Vijnana program and producing more Vijnana. On the other hand, if your Prajna program is stronger, it will be using the Prajna program to process the data, and it will be producing more Prajna. Understand?
Yes, Bhante. It's a wonderful explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yes.
I have a wrong understanding till date.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, please again elaborate more on Sankhara and Vijnana, because in Prajna and Vijnana, that software that analogy of software you have given, that is wonderful. Otherwise, we have
It's
some
very
wrong notion in the
simple
mind.
technique one has to understand. It's just that a lot of preachers, both bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasaka, upasika, when they preach, they don't explain it properly. Different people give different explanations, and that confuses people. You see, it's very important to understand this process. When Rupa, Vedana, Sanya comes to our mind, how our mind processes data. Mind is like a central processing unit. The program that it will use is either the negative program, which is Vijnana, or the positive program, Prajna. Where do these programs come from? They are energies produced by two batteries. What are the two batteries? The bad battery that produces negative energy, Vijnana, is the quality, the bad qualities, the unwholesome qualities, raga, dvesha, moha qualities that we have accumulated. And that produces the negative energy called Vijnana. On the other hand, what produces Prajna is the good qualities, the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities that produces Prajna. So when we process a thought with Vijnana, what we are doing is we are cultivating a raga, dvesha, moha thought. So we are strengthening the raga, dvesha, moha battery, the raga, dvesha, moha qualities in that battery, which means we are strengthening the Vijnana energy even more. On the other hand, if we are doing, instead of Sankara, we are doing Visankara, that means we are constructing a thought, a positive thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka program, so that it produces, it strengthens the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities, and in turn strengthens the energy that it produces, which is Vijnana, right? It is very important to understand these two processes. It's not rocket science. It's simple common sense. It's just that it is not explained to people properly.
Nice explanation, Bhante. Today I have understood what is Sankhara and Vijnana. Otherwise, we have some abstract idea about Sankhara and Vijnana. Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante, Vandami Bhante.
Yes.
Bhante,
Yes,
this
sir.
is Raj. I have a same. I just wanted to take this this explanation little further, Bhante. You had said Pancha Upadana Skanda.
Yes.
Basically, Lord Buddha says Pancha Upadana Skanda is a dukkha.
Yes.
So in Pancha Upadana Skanda, we have Rupa Vedana Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana.
Yes.
Sankara and Vijnana both are associated with the box number 3 and 4.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If I have a pancha, if and where we wanted to take our Pancha Upadana Skanda to is to Rupa Vedana Sanya, that part remains the same. because Lord Buddha doesn't want us to kind of stop on that side. But for the Sankara, Buddha wants you to develop Visankara.
That's correct. That's correct.
And you wanted to develop Panya. So if you use the Pancha Upadana Skandha as a Rupa Vedana Sanya, Visankara Panya.
Yes.
If you use these 5 elements, you are already in one of the 4 areas.
Yes, you see, if you keep doing that, then all you are doing is practicing wholesome thoughts and not allowing unwholesome thoughts to come into your mind. If you can do Visankara 100% of the time, you are Arahat. That's all that you have to do, nothing else. But it's easily said than done. One has to practice that, you see, because our mind has been practicing Sankara for trillions and trillions of lives. So we have to, change that habit completely and develop a new habit. It's not too difficult, not too easy. One has to, work on it.
Bhante, if you allow me to ask one more on a similar line.
You can ask any number of questions. We still got time.
Bhante, earlier you said, Yampi Ichito Nalabhati Tangpi Dukkham.
Yampi Ichang Nalabhati Tampi Dukkham.
Yes, Bhante.
Yes.
And this particular sentence you explained as that this is a quality of the earlier types of dukkha that we looked at, right? Jati, Jara, Maranam.
Actually, all the dukkhas, including those 11, have that quality. Yampi Ichang Nalabhati Tampi Dukkham.
Can you elaborate a little more on this, Bhante? Because earlier, the understanding that is prevalent in there is what you desire. If you don't get that, that is dukkha. That is the understanding that was prevalent or understood earlier.
So that's exactly what Yampi Ichang Nalabhati Tampi Dukkham means. Yampi means, now if you understand Sinhala, it's very easy. This is very similar to Sinhala language. Yampi Ichang Nalabhati. If we like something, and Nalabhati means we don't get it. In our in Sinhala language, we say Nolabhati. Yampi Ichang. Yang means we say Yam Deak. Yampi Ichang. Icha means, desire, your willingness. If you don't get what you desire, it causes suffering. That's what Yampi Ichang Nalabhati Tampi Dukkham means. You see? That means if you are attached to something and you can't have it, that causes you suffering. So that quality is there in all the 11 types of suffering that Lord Buddha explained, which people underwent at that time, they experienced, but they didn't know the cause of that suffering. The cause of that suffering was Yampi Ichang Nalabhati, attachment. Yampi Ichang Nalabhati means attachment. Think about it, Attachment can be with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. And Yampi Ichang Nalabhati means another way of saying attachment. Here the key word is Icha. Icha means desire, greed. Any other questions?
Vandami Bhante ji.
Yes, Namo
Buddhaya. Pankaj here.
Yes.
Bhante ji, you said on an average, a human being gets about 30,000 thoughts a day.
Yes.
Now, these thoughts are there in the intellect mind or in the unconscious mind?
Well, what do you mean by intellect mind and unconscious mind?
In the sense that I'm aware of those thoughts, that I have thought, I had an unwholesome thought about my friend, or I had an unwholesome thought about my neighbor, or, I meant by that, I'm aware of those thoughts.
You see, when it comes to thoughts, you see, Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to your mind all the time. It becomes a thought if you take it in and start thinking about it. Let's say you are traveling in a bus, you're looking outside the window and you could see so many things, right? But not all those things are going to be thoughts, but they are all Rupa Vedana Sanya. Within fraction of a millisecond, all the things that come, you see, your eyes will see, will be converted to Rupa Vedana Sanya and go to your mind. But if your mind takes it in and start thinking about it, only then it becomes a thought, right? So either your mind is busy thinking of something else, or it will take one of those and start thinking about it. I don't know about conscious thoughts and unconscious thoughts. That's a new word to me.
No,
For
thanks,
me,
Bhante. I
every
understood you are
thought is conscious.
Yes, no, you are talking about the senses, the Rupa Vedana Sanya.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Got
Yes.
it. Thank you, Bhante.
Bhanteji, one clarification, Bhanteji.
Yes.
The Sankara that is coming from, that is in the past life. I think there is a Chuti Chitta, the life ends, and the Patisandhi Chitta comes about, and what I understand is the Chitta always takes an object. It recognizes an object, and the Chitta is a very pure entity.
Now, what a thought is based on Rupa Vedana Sanya and nothing else.
Okay, Vande. Okay, no. Actually, what let me explain a bit further, Bandeji.
Yeah.
Please tell me if I'm right or wrong, Bandeji. So the Chuti Chitta, what I understand is the Chitta is the purest form. It just identifies the object during the death time.
A thought.
It's a thought. It's a thought.
Identifying is Sanya. Chitta is a thought.
Okay. Chitta is a thought. Okay, Bhante.
Yes.
So in the okay, Bhante. So the result of Sankara will be the Vijnana through this the
Through the unwholesome
Chitta.
qualities, yes.
Yes, the Patisandhi Chitta, does it take an object? Is the Sankara object of the object of the, oh, sorry. Sorry, I think I confused on
I think you are confusing several issues there, you know. Think about it carefully. I'm not sure what you are trying to ask. You're confusing several issues there.
No, Bhandeji. No. What I'm telling is, when the Patisandhi takes the object of the last, the lost thought, that there's the thought which comes, and then
object of the last thought. What do you mean by that?
Sorry, the lost thought is the object. I mean.
No, thought is thought. It's not an object. You see, last thought. Now you see, last thought decides whether the person is going to a good place or a bad place. Let's say most people, 99.99% of the people go to a bad place, one of the four hells. So then which hell he goes to depends on the type of Bhava Bija that he has accumulated. You see, now, when we are talking about the four hells, what we mean is the animal kingdom, the ghost kingdom, inferior ghost kingdom, and the hell. Now, about hells, Lord Buddha has further explained 125 different types of hells, right? So the people who go to these different places depends on the different types of bija that they have planted. So the bija they have planted depends on the unwholesome qualities and the sins that they have accumulated, right? So according to the unwholesome qualities and the unwholesome sins they have accumulated, they will have a Chuta Siddha, final thought, right? So that final thought will be unwholesome in case of 99.99% of the people, and they will go to the four hells. Where they go depends on the bija that they have planted, they have grown, which will be planted there. So that the Patisandhi Chitta is the first thought that you will get in the next birth.
Okay, Bhanteji.
Right?
Okay, Bhanteji. And the Vijnana, is it a form of is it a program, or is it a form of mind?
Vijnana is the negative energy. It does many things. One thing it does is it works like a negative program and provides the necessary energy to process the thought, right? To process the thought, we need energy. You see, our mind is like a central processing unit of a computer. In fact, the computers have been made according to our mind works, right? You know, these scientists, especially in US and UK, they do a lot of research into Lord Buddha's teachings. They take the teachings and instead of using it for the right purpose, they use it for the wrong purpose. In other words, instead of using Lord Buddha's teachings to develop Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, they use them to develop Raga, Dvesha, Moha, right? For example, developing the nuclear bomb. Similarly, the computer, they have developed according to how our mind works. Our mind is like a central processing unit. When data comes to it, it needs a program to run it, the process to process the data. So there are two programs that the mind uses. One program is provided by this negative energy called Vijnana. The other program is provided by the positive energy called Prajna, right?
Yes, Bhante. And one last question, Bhante, about the astral body or Gandhabba, the body. Today, what happened is there was a question about.
No, Gandhabba is not body. Gandhabba is, you know, Gandhabba means when the astral body leaves, and it doesn't, most of the time, it doesn't get a place immediately to be born in a certain place. If it is going to the four hells, yes. Sometimes it has to float in the universe until it finds a suitable place that suits his karma, the merits and the sins and the wholesome qualities and the unwholesome qualities, and also the bhava bija that he has accumulated, planted or grown. Depending on all these, there's a certain place for him. For example, let's say he's supposed to come back to the human world. He was in the Sotapanna path, but he couldn't become Sotapanna. He had a good thought, he's supposed to come back to the human world. But a human womb must be available, a suitable womb must be available, right? Most of the time it's not. So he will have to circulate, his astral body will have to circulate in the universe until a suitable womb, suitable mother is available. Then that when that is circulating that way, when the astral body is circulating like that, that is called Gandhabba.
Okay, Bhante. The question here is today there was a talk about the sleep paralysis during the night hours, and the person actually is not able to move at all. What the description they told is their eyes are closed, but they can see themselves. It seems they feel that their eyes are open, but in fact the eyes are closed or something like that. But I thought the eyes are generally open. So if in case the eyes are closed and if they are able to see themselves or see something around. So what I felt is perhaps it must be the Gandhabba that's operating at that time during the sleep paralysis time. Ms. Bhanteji.
Well, the question is not clear to me. Can you elaborate the question?
No, no, the understanding, the description from the people is
Where did you see it? Is it in Buddha Dhamma, or is it just a scientific program?
No. Today I talk with people. So when I give the Dhamma, there was a question about ghosts and something like that, and then the question came
Where
about.
does this question originally come from? Does it come from Buddha Dhamma, or does it come from some scientific thoughts, scientific ideas?
Yeah, scientific. Their understanding about the sleep
so it's
paralysis.
nothing to do with Buddha Dhamma. Ask him to go back to the science book where he read it from.
Okay, Bhante. Okay, Bhante.
You see, it's nothing to do with Buddha Dhamma. You know, the science, some of the scientists are coming up with crazy ideas, and that's nothing to do with Buddha Dhamma.
Okay, Bhante. Okay, thank you, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Bhanteji.
Right, time is up. Okay, well, you can ask one last question.
Bhanteji, the man, he has a patisandhi, and again he has born into the human as a human being. Now, as a child, within a few days, he dies. Now this when he dies, again that manoma kaya, that he has not committed any kamma. He was just a child.
Well, we don't know what karma he has committed billion lives ago.
No, so
we
that's
don't know
what
what merits, what sins he has accumulated in his Vitakkasanthana 10 lives ago, 100 lives ago, 1,000 lives ago, billion lives ago. We have no idea.
So what I say, that means like a bank balance is carried forward.
Exactly.
Whether he has added kamma or not, that is not important. But what is like a bank balance, it carries forward, and that
carries forward, and we keep adding every minute. We keep adding or deducting from that. We keep adding, positive or negative into our bank balance. In other words, we keep accumulating merits and sins.
Thank you, Bhanteji.
Okay, I think time is up now. So we are going to transfer merits, offer blessings, and conclude today's work. I think today lots of good questions came up. I'm so glad to see. It shows that people have started the practice. A lot of practical questions are coming up. That's very, very good. My intention is to make as many people as possible, help as many people as possible to become Sotapanna. So I'm glad to see that people are going down the right path. People are making the effort. Please keep up the good work. And if you have any other questions, I mean, if there wasn't enough time to ask these questions, maybe next time we'll have to extend the time. Today I wasn't prepared. It seems to me that more and more questions are coming up. So next time I will give more than 2 hours if it is necessary. Okay, so today, now we are going to transfer merits. By practicing 10 meritorious deeds today, we have accumulated a lot of merits. All the merits that we have accumulated today, as well as throughout our samsara, first transfer them to our dead relatives. Firstly, I like to think of Bodhisattva Ambedkar, because of whom we are all here. Then his relatives who have passed away, and also dead relatives of ours in this life, as well as billions and trillions of previous lives, especially those who are parents to us. Let's think of all of them and all those merits that we have accumulated up to now. May all of those living beings, our dead relatives, may they all receive these merits. And with the power of these merits, may they all be happy, be healthy, be free from worries, free from suffering, comprehend the Four Noble Truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. In order to make those wishes, I'm going to recite this gatha If you know the Gatha, please recite it with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu nātayo. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu nātayo. Idam vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu nātayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next, we are going to transfer all those merits to all the living beings living on the 31 planes. That includes the living beings living on the 20 Brahma Loka, 6 Divya Loka, Manusha Loka, that's the human world, and the 4 hells. May all of them receive these merits. And with the power of these merits, may they all be happy, be healthy, be free from worries, free from suffering, comprehend the 4 noble truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. In order to make those wishes, I am going to recite this Gatha. If you know the Gatha, you can recite them with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Imina punyakam, sorry. Ettavata cheammehi sambadam punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cheammehi sambadam punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cheammehi sambadam punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next, with the power of all these merits that we have accumulated throughout our samsara, may all of us and all our family members be able to eradicate the raga, desha, moha thoughts that are coming to our mind, as well as eradicate all the raga, desha, moha qualities that we have accumulated throughout our samsara. And by doing that process, may all of us be able to comprehend the 4 noble truths and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. In order to make those wishes, I'm going to recite this Gatha. And if you know the Gatha, please do recite it with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Idamme punya kamman asavakkaya vahan hotu dukkha pamuchyatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, in order to ask for forgiveness from the noble triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, I'm going to recite this Gatha. And if you know the Gatha, please recite them with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame bhante buripanya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame dhamma sandittika kalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame sangha supatipanna anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to give you the blessings of the Mahasangha. Abhivadana Selista Nichang Vadda Pachayino Chattaro Dhamma Vaddanti Ayuvanno Sukambalang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samijjatu Bhavatu Sabba Mangalang Rakkantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddhanubhavena Sabba Dhammanubhavena Sabba Sanghanubhavena Sada Sati Bhavantu Te. May all of you be happy, be healthy, be free from worries, be free from suffering, comprehend the 4 noble truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. May the noble gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha bless you all. Thank you very much. Namo Buddhaya. Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Lanka. See you next week. Thank you. Namo Buddhaya.